So what's going on, Laker fans? D-Mac here. Welcome back to the Lakers 24/8 podcast. As always, I'm joined by my man, Mr. Eric Yulo. But today we've got a special guest here, NBA Insider, Bally NBA Insider, Scoop B. You can follow him at Scoop B. Scoop, thanks for rocking with us tonight, my man.
D-Mac, what's going on? E, what's going on?
All right, but let's get into some heavy-hitting basketball talk. You know, all the talk is about Russell Westbrook here in Los Angeles. A lot of Laker fans, they never wanted him. I mean, it was like the collaboration that we never asked for. It was like the Nelly and Tim McGraw song. No one asked for that, okay? No one asked for Russell Westbrook in L.A., but he really is the biggest domino here. And the first question I want to ask you is, what are you hearing about where the Lakers stand right now with Russell Westbrook? What's your sense from the Lakers side and from Russ's side?
So I know Russ, and I know his crew. And just as a point of reference, when he was traded to the Houston Rockets, I was one of the only national reporters in Tulsa, Oklahoma that was there. And what I learned about Russell and getting to know Russell is he's an excellent dancer. He and one of his friends during a comedy show celebrated his trade to Houston. And he didn't want to talk to media, but we talked in the back, and I recorded his dance moves and was really in awe of how coordinated he is and just how down to earth and how much he's beloved in Oklahoma. That being said, you said nobody wanted him. I tend to disagree with that going into this past season. Because what I could share with you specifically about Russell Westbrook was that his move to come to Los Angeles was something that was premeditated as far back as around round one of the NBA playoffs. And I got a call from someone very much in the know, and basically they shared with me that he's going to request a trade with the Wizards, and ultimately you could see any iteration of either Taylor Horton-Tucker, Kyle Kuzma, and other pieces being moved. And ultimately the Lakers maintained and kept Taylor Horton-Tucker. But one of the things that I gather from talking with Russell's crew is it's a disappointment because he's from LA, and it's very difficult and very pressure-filled to play where you're from. You know, I know that Kyrie Irving, and I know we'll talk about that later, even being from New Jersey and being, you know, with ties to the Bronx and playing for the Nets, there's pressure having grown up watching the Nets and being in the greater New York metropolitan area. And so as it relates to Russell Westbrook, I think that Lakers fans are very frustrated. And I've learned over the years that Lakers faithful are very highly expectant of their superstars in a way that I can only compare it to New York. And I think that as it relates to Russell, year one, from everyone that I've spoken to within the Lakers organization, was really a calamity from the beginning, because you dealt with injuries, you dealt with COVID, and you dealt with Russell and Frank Vogel not seeing eye to eye. Because every person that I spoke with in the know on the Lakers side, they were excited about the season, but something happened. And there were a couple things that happened. Number one, Scotty Brooks was someone that they were considering either as a head coach and or as an assistant. And Scotty Brooks has a good relationship with Russell dating back to the Oklahoma days, and then, you know, subsequently in Washington with the Wizards. And there's something about Scotty Brooks where he's able to kind of connect with him in a way that many can't. And I think that with the Lakers, I think that both Russell and the Lakers owe it another go around. I know that people feel as though Russell should be gone, but this is a guy that's been an MVP. And I think that a change of scenery or coaching could potentially fix it to start the season. And I think that's where you should kind of begin.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, you have Laker fans out there. They think that the Lakers have 99 problems and Russ is every single one of them, but that's not the reality, right? You have the injuries to Anthony Davis last year, the father time catching up to LeBron James, really no depth around the roster to really utilize his skills. You say, yes, he's a former MVP. I'm a UCLA guy. I'm a Russell Westbrook stan. I'm the president of the Russell Westbrook fan club. But even myself, seeing his statistics, 19, 7, and 7, but are those empty stats if they're met with inefficient shooting, and a high turnover rate? That's kind of the question I have, but I want to ask you this question. So if you were the Lakers in this situation, would you, obviously Kyrie, that's the white whale in this situation. If you can get Kyrie, you give him the picks, okay? We don't care about what's happening in 2025 and 2027. I always say parades over picks any day of the week, but would you consider some of these other trades? How about this deal? Pacers receive Russell Westbrook, 1 first-round pick with no protections in 2 seconds. Lakers receive Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. If you're the Lakers, are you doing that deal?
If I'm the Pacers, I don't.
If you're the Pacers, you don't. Because
if I'm the Pacers, I know that was a report that came out from my Spotify Live colleague Mark Stein, I think earlier this month. No issue with Mark at all, but I think I think respectfully, as it relates to Lakers Nation and the purple and gold, to me this seems very comparatively very Knicks-like, where the Knicks faithful just think that they're supposed to get everybody for nothing, and you kind of pegged it where you said Father Time. Like, you're like, to me, Buddy Hield is a supporting star, like in a Kyle Kuzma sort of way, or what we thought Kyle Kuzma would be in Los Angeles alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron, and then just give him off for Russell Westbrook and picks. I don't agree with it as an even trade for both sides.
Interesting, comparing Lakers fans to the Knicks organization. Look, Scoop, I understand, yes, Laker fans are entitled, but look, we haven't won a title since 2020. Okay, that was forever ago.
I'm so sorry.
It's been a while.
It's been forever.
I'm so sorry. It's been 2 years.
I mean, do you think, Scoop, do you think the Pacers' hesitancy is, do you think some of it also, too, is worrying about Westbrook? The report that Mark Stein also wrote is the owner's probably not willing to pay the buyout. Do you think they're worried about Westbrook kind of stunting Tyrese Halliburton's growth? They just kind of engineered a giant trade.
Perhaps. And I know that just on the Pacers side of things, and the way Kevin Pritchard and their owner are kind of moving the needle, you kind of pegged it. Tyrese Halliburton is going to be a terror since the public school era, as Notorious B.I.G. would say. I think oftentimes when you bring in big name role star players who they're trying to make role players, you can stunt growth. But at the same time, if the Pacers are trying to rebuild, what does Russell Westbrook have to do with that? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but like, it's kind of a thing where when I look at Russell Westbrook, if you're the Lakers and you're trying to move him, he fits to me in a puzzle more in a San Antonio or Dallas, but it would either have to be buyout or traded and then they buy them out. Like, I don't stylistically, I kind of feel like he needs a rebuild if you're going to move him in LA. Like, comparatively, when you look at Chris Paul, when he left Houston and went to Oklahoma, people thought that he was done and that he was washed, and he more than raised his value playing along guys like Lou Dort, and then got another deal after last season playing in Phoenix and damn near winning the championship. Like, Russell Westbrook needs that city that's not a major city where you can just grow, rebuild, retool, and move on. Because I feel like where Russell Westbrook is right now, and I won't say just me having conversations with executives and people in leadership positions, they fear that the history will be doomed to repeat itself, and that Russell is in a space where when he doesn't want to take a bench role, and you figure all-star appearances, MVPs, he probably figures why should he, but there are people that fear that this is Allen Iverson all over again.
Yeah, I mean, that comp has definitely been made. And I think, your Chris Paul OKC point, I think, is really important, because the key to that, on top of, him playing well with Lou Dort, was also, having a strong relationship with Sam Presti, them having that kind of backroom agreement of like, hey, like, you're going to be here. We want you to play. We'll get you out of here. But, be a role model for some of these younger guys. You can kind of see that's, some of that is why the Thunder are where they are now, as far as some of that old Chris Paul leadership. So, I mean, you kind of touched on it too, as far as the buyout market. Like, is there even a possibility where the Lakers, who, like, let's be honest, it's a mom and pop ownership group. Like, the brand is global, but they're not owned by a billionaire. They're not owned by Joe Tsai. They're not owned by Michael Ballmer. Like, and I know you talked about this with the Mavericks, and we'll get to that in a second with the great report, but is there a world where the Lakers negotiate a buyout with Russell Westbrook?
It gets touchy because Russell doesn't want to give up that $47 million.
Right.
So you know, we kind of visited that with John Wall, and ultimately it worked itself out. He's down the hall at crypto.com. I have to get used to saying that. But
you can say Staples here. Okay.
At Staples, where, you know, he's where he is. And, you know, you talk to guys like Terrence Mann last week over at Bally, and he's excited for John Wall to be there. He grew up watching him. Like, it's kind of like with John Wall, he has that big homie approach that people like, and it works. Russ has that quietly. I think Russ is misunderstood a lot. And I've gotten to know Russ. It has started at that comedy show. He really is an approachable guy. It's just how you approach him in your conversation.
I think internally, I mean, you've heard some of Russell Westbrook's teammates, like Austin Rivers said he was the best teammate he's ever had. Steven Adams defended him on the podium. I think that's a great point you make, because people see this persona, that angry bulldog Russ on the court, and think that he doesn't have his teammates back. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think he is a guy that was really just put in a tough situation last season. You kind of got my hopes up, thinking that if they do run this back with Anthony Davis, with LeBron James and Russ, and let me ask you this question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. It's opening night 2022. Is Russell Westbrook wearing purple and gold? Is he on the Lakers?
I say yes, and I think it's a situation where you take it minute by minute, hour by hour, game by game. I think a lot of people jumped the gun with Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving around 4th of July. And I think the thing that I have apprehension about with him starting the season in LA is that the Western Conference ain't scared of the Lakers. Like, you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, they don't fear LeBron. You look at Phoenix, they don't fear LeBron. I feel like 10 to 15 years ago, the Spurs were that YMCA team that would beat the young kids in the gym, and there was still a level of fear that you had for the concoction of Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili. The Lakers, these young guys are running the league. You got Dallas, you still got the Warriors.
The Nuggets should be better.
You got the Nuggets that now have a healthy point guard, and they added KCP. The West is tough, man. The West is tough, so it's like, yeah, the Lakers can compete. I want to see them be successful, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with this LeBron experiment of them only getting one championship. I know that's not what y'all want to hear, but at the same time, the West is that tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, we brought you on because, you know, you keep it 100. You're speaking the truth. Like, we gotta hear what we gotta hear. And I think so if you're Rob Pelinka, you are, you know, pretend you don't have this great relationship with Westbrook. You're Rob Pelinka. I think it kind of boils down to 5 options with Russell Westbrook. Excuse me. You can buy him out. You can give him the John Wall treatment. You sit him. You say, hey, we're going to try to find a trade. If nothing works out, then we'll figure it out down the line. Do you spend the draft capital to trade him? Do you start the season and then kind of revisit those trade options closer to the deadline when that $47.1 million contract isn't as big? Or to what you spoke to, like, do you try to make it work? I think Darvin Ham has said all the right things. Like, do you run it back with what Russ, LeBron, and AD, hope that those young free agents they signed, hope that you get some more out of Austin Reeves? Like, is that which of those 5 options, if you were Rob Pelinka?
I know at the end of the season, the Lakers were really examining some of the guys that you mentioned, Austin Reeves and others. But I also think that the Lakers and the Nets have something in common. they got pressure to do something this coming season. And I think that in the Lakers organization, with the vets, I don't think everybody's on the same page with Rob Pelinka. And in fact, I know somebody who told me Rob Pelinka is full of shit.
Was it Magic Johnson?
I'm not naming any names.
I know. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking after the first take, after Magic Johnson left the Lakers and just.
It wasn't Magic Johnson. I'll say that, but I'm not naming names. And
we'll keep it at sources.
But what I'll say is that there's a level of distrust that some have. Even how Magic ultimately departed and Rob resumed a role. I feel as though I feel like Pelinka is more equipped though in a lot of cases because of his years as an agent, and the fact that he has built that trust with Jeannie Buss. But ultimately, I think that this is a pressure year for the Lakers, and if I'm LeBron, I don't necessarily sign when offered. I kind of wait it out because I really do think that aside from him waiting for his son to play in the NBA, I think he wants to win at least one more. And I don't know that the Lakers, as constructed currently, is a championship team. A good team, yes. I'd like to see them win it. I'm wishing them well. But you got to kind of look at the market after this season and where people are going and what's going to happen.
Well, the next question is, on August 4th, LeBron James will be eligible to sign that 2-year, $97 million extension with the Lakers. What does your gut tell you on LeBron's future with the Lakers past this season? Do you think he signs an extension with the Lakers?
I kind of answered it earlier, and I'll just reiterate and add more context. If I'm LeBron, I wait a little bit. But I say that with reservation because I'm interested to see what the next collective bargaining agreement is going to look like. So if I'm LeBron, I'm kind of in the middle because I feel like the last collective bargaining agreement benefited his cohorts like Chris Paul. And so is this his last big payday, or will he get a bigger payday if he waits? That's my concern if I'm LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm LeBron in this situation, and I think you mentioned it earlier, you said that why aren't Laker fans happy with that one championship? I've always said LeBron has to win 2 to win 1 in LA because some people, they call, the LeMickey ring, the Mickey Mouse, the bubble ring. Me, I think it's a fully legitimate title, but you didn't have that parade. You didn't have that moment at Crypto or Staples Center. My bad. That was my fault, but I didn't buy enough Staples. That's why they changed the name. But I think when you're LeBron James in this situation, the money doesn't really mean that much, right? He's a billionaire at this point. You see what he does outside the league. I think that winning another championship, or at the very least contending for another championship, is more important than securing another bag. But also from a branding standpoint too, he always wanted to play for an iconic franchise, to don the purple and gold. For him to go somewhere else, he might be seen maybe as a ring chaser at that point. I mean, do you think that at some point just kind of has to ride off into the sunset? He's already in the conversation for the GOAT. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So he did what he did what he wanted to do in LA. You talk about the branding and going to an iconic franchise. LA was about Space Jam, the shop, and the discounts for production. And oh yeah, he won a championship. I kind of feel like we're at a point, like, say he doesn't resign, right? Say he doesn't sign August 4th. And say we go into next offseason and we're figuring out what's next. This conversation reminds me of Miami in 2014, or was that 2016 when he went back to Cleveland? Like, I think for LA, if you're looking to win a championship, I feel like any team LeBron is on, you have that 2 to 3 year window. You saw it in Miami with Chris Bosh and Wade. And I feel like Chris Bosh became a jump shooter. You saw it in Cleveland where Kevin Love became the spot-up jump shooter, but he got a big payday. And you kind of see it in LA with Anthony Davis. Like, I want Anthony Davis to do well this season, but he's become a spot-up jump shooter and not a spot-up jump shooter mixed with being a bruiser like he was in New Orleans. So then you start looking around the league and you're looking at Cleveland again. You're looking at Orlando, what they're doing. You're looking at Oklahoma City. You're at least looking around. I feel like if you're looking to just be within an iconic franchise, You did that already. But if you don't have anything else to prove, just like in Cleveland, he won the championship in 2016. He doesn't owe Cleveland anything else. I hear what you're saying about winning at least 2 championships, but at the same time, I also feel like you're looking at the final part of your legacy. He's at the point where you're Cal Ripken Jr.'s dad, and you're Billy Ripken. You want to manage a team or be on a team where your sons are on. You look at the Griffeys, and you look at, like, we've never seen that in basketball.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think that's a whole separate conversation. Just how good is Bronny James? And you talk to some scouts. Some people think he needs a couple years of college to be a legitimate NBA prospect. But of course, you can't really talk about LeBron without talking about Kyrie Irving these days. Now, Laker fans, their dream move this offseason is for them to find a way to get Kyrie Irving in purple and gold. Can you provide a sliver of hope for Laker fans that are still dreaming about Kyrie Irving on the Lakers? Could it still happen?
You want me to lie and tell the truth?
Hey,
tell the truth.
If you need to pour some cold water on us, go ahead.
Yeah.
From everybody that I've spoken to on the Kyrie side, it's more of a Lakers dream than it is a Kyrie dream. And the only holdup with the Lakers and the Nets conversation was really the Nets wanted both Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and picks, and the Lakers were not willing to do that. On the Kyrie side, I think that the Clippers was more of a realistic fit prior to John Wall coming than the Lakers at the point in which they were dialoguing about it early July. But I've always contended and have been on record by saying this, that Kyrie Irving as a Brooklyn Net was really where he wanted to be when he opted in. But there are some New York issues that have nothing to do with the Lakers as it relates to his dealings with the Nets. And there's a hope that they can work that out and that both he and Kevin Durant can both stay in Brooklyn and attempt to win at least one championship in the borough of Brooklyn for this Nets franchise that hasn't won anything since the ABA days.
Yeah, no, when you talk about Kyrie Irving, a mercurial player, you don't know how he is one day or the next, but the reality is he's an uber talented player that every team would want on his best day on their squad. But look, everyone knows you, Speedy Claxton, the 2 biggest NBA legends out of Hofstra. But hey, we got to do some rapid round. I want to get to know you on some other stuff. This is the Scoop with Scoop. We're going to do a rapid fire round. You down? You can say pass on any of these 2, by the way.
Listen, let's get it moving. I like it.
All right, let's go. Okay, so whose posters did you have on your wall as a kid? Who's your favorite player growing up?
Wow. Posters I had on my wall. I can give you more than one?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
King Griffey Jr.,
Ooh,
Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Shaq, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X.
This is the sickest room I've ever heard of, man. Like, I mean, your poster game was on point. Absolutely, man. So next question. Okay, you're hosting a dinner party. You can have you along with 4 other NBA players in the history of the game. Who are you inviting to your party?
Shaq.
Diesel.
Dennis Rodman.
Now that's a dinner party.
Okay, so we got Shaq. We got Dennis Rodman. I'm gonna listen. He wore brand Jordan. He didn't play in the NBA, but he was a baseball player. The third person will be Derek Jeter.
Ooh, the captain.
Because he's gonna bring pretty women, and he's gonna bring politicians and everybody else. I'm thinking about the people who will bring people. So Shaq is gonna bring Michael Jordan. So I'm a winner. I really want Michael, but that's too easy. So we got Dennis Rodman, Shaq, Derek Jeter. And then the last person I would bring would probably be Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie, man, that's interesting, man. You got the flat earther, you got the captain, you got the diesel, you got the worm. Hey, Diddy labeled Jeter the Prince of New York, so you know it's going to be popping, but I love that group. Okay, so best NBA rapper of all time. To me, big Shaq fan back in the day. I like Dame Dollar. I mean, Dame Dollar, one of my favorite verses from him is, while y'all was out there clubbing, I ran suicides in the dungeon. I'm a big Dame Dollar fan. Iman Shumpert is really nice, but in your opinion, who's the best NBA rapper of all time?
Shaq.
Hey, man, the platinum records don't lie, right? It's all about the plaques.
It's that, plus he actually did rhymes with Big.
Ooh, yeah, that's true. That is true. Also, that song when Nate Dogg was fired too back in the day. Big Shaq, like, what? Hey, yo, Big Diesel. Okay, so you used to work at an athlete's foot back in the day, so I'm assuming you've got to be a big sneakerhead at some point, right? Probably still are, right? So which, other than Air Jordans, which is the best NBA signature sneaker of all time?
That's a good question. Best sneakers other than Air Jordans. These are some good ass questions.
Shaq brand, Walmart.
No, I mean they're cool. They're affordable. I'm not gonna sell my man Shaq short. Probably the best sneakers that I like outside of Air Jordans probably are pennies because I like foams.
Ooh, those penny foams, the penny twos with the Air Max, those were fire. The Chris Rock commercial. But I think Kobe changing the game with the low tops that pretty much 95% of the league is wearing and hoarding at the moment. I got to go with Kobe's. Then another question about sneakers. What's your favorite Jordan of all time? 1 through, I think they're up to 36 now.
Nobody was wearing them in the 30s and the late 20s, but
hey, Luka, Tatum.
Except Russell Westbrook. What?
The Brody. Why not?
And some of his sneaker collections are actually, the colors I actually do like. Not for me, but I do like them. I have two favorite Jordans actually. I like the Jordan 3s with the zebra, white, black, red. And I have actually a custom pair of 11s, white and black, that I have that have the Scoopy logo on them and everything. So I like the 11s and the 3s. Nice.
We can get you some Shaq brand Jordan 3s. Have you seen those? They look really close. They're like a tenth of the price, but I like that, man. 3s are fire. First one with the jump, man. Okay, so which NBA city other than New York has the best food?
There's a couple. I like Philly, but I also went to college out there, so I'm partial. Honestly, I like LA. LA food and just going to different places and catching up with friends over good food is always a good time. And if not LA and not Philly, to be honest with you, I enjoy my time food-wise in New Orleans and Phoenix.
Man, yeah, I'll hear a lot of good things about New Orleans. Okay, so Tupac or Biggie?
It depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
If I'm in my home office and I'm trying to get work done, and I just need something to listen to and process, I like Tupac. If I'm in a mood like I'm just like playing 2K or like I have company over or I'm on the plane and I just need something to get my psyche going, I like Big. I like both for different reasons.
Best basketball movie ever?
Space Jam 1.
Space Jam 1. I like that pick. I'm saying he got game. Eric, what's your favorite basketball movie of all time?
I like White Man Can't Jump. Just love the Tui performances. You know, I love the quote at the end. It's a little sappy, but I'm a white man. I'm a white man can't jump kind of guy. It also describes my basketball game.
Yeah, no, that is fire, man. I love that pick. I kind of regret not saying that. Okay, give me your all-time All-NBA party team. You're the 5 biggest NBA party animals. I know you know stuff. I know you know who had the best bottle service, the best VIP club. Give me your All-NBA Mount Rushmore party animals. Yeah, I think you said one earlier in Dennis Rodman, but who else would fill out your list?
So I've partied with Allen Iverson. Well, I've been at the card table with Allen Iverson. And I won $400 at the table sitting next to him in New Orleans. So I'm going Allen at point guard. Robert Horry got me and Jason Kidd's son TJ in when TJ was like a couple days from being 21. We were at a party and they wouldn't let us do the VIP. Robert Horry is at the 3. He let us in. At the 2 position, so this is random, and you guys are gonna be like, why? When I was a kid, I went to a Nets holiday party. Kendall Gill, former Net, was sitting at the table with me and my family. I was invited to the Nets Christmas party. Everybody was having a good time, and I heard him tell guys that I was at the table with how he got free cars. Like he didn't have to lease them. It was like free leasing cars. And like he like told us the whole game to perfection. So Kendall would be at the 2. At the 4 position, I probably would go with I think of a guy at the 4 that I've partied with or been at a party with. Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay, Cat.
Yeah, Cat is social, very aware. We were at a party. Robert Horry was at that party too. Quavo was there. Dwayne Wade, Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis. It was a party, and Kat and I had a good conversation, and we talked about money, we talked about travel. So that's the 4 position, and at the 5 position, probably Shaq. 2020 All-Star game or All-Star weekend was in Chicago, and I was in the green room with him, Chuck, Kenny, while they were doing a pre-show like that Thursday or Friday going into All-Star weekend. And so like when they were in between sets, if you think they're funny on TV, they're funnier in the back. And I'm not gonna throw anybody in the bus, but Shaq is funny as hell. And food in the back was cool, the conversation was cool. And that's my starting 5. So Robert Horry, Allen Iverson, Karl Anthony Towns, Kendall Gill, and Shaq.
You heard the all-party team. One time I was at a club, Andrew Bynum was there. He had bottle service and all this stuff, and he left, and like 20 minutes later, I took some of the orange juice, they had for the screwdrivers. Yeah. So that's as close as I got. You have better stories, better NBA party stories than I do, but that's my Andrew Bynum NBA party story. Look, Scoop, Eric and I, we go on for days on. We haven't really even touched on Darvin Ham and KD, some of the moves they made this offseason. We'll have to do this again, but that's going to do it for this episode, man. We can't thank you enough for joining us here on the Lakers 24A podcast. Your expertise on all things basketball. I want to go party with your all NBA party team for sure. But thanks for rocking with us, Scoop B. You can follow Scoop B at Scoop B on Twitter, Instagram, the NBA Insider, and also he's Valley's NBA Insider as well. But thanks for rocking with us, Scoop. We really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be myself. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Scoop. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too.